Welcome back to Online Darts, everyone. A very, very special one. We are here, Brentwood, at Maskell's, and we've got the Governor. Barry, first of all, thanks for the invite to the home of Matchroom. How are you?
Well, I'm well, and you couldn't pick a better day. We couldn't pick a better subject because the dart, if the sun shines good, the darts makes everything else even better. So, welcome to the home of Matchroom.
Yeah, look, darts is obviously on this massive trajectory. We spoke about 18 months ago, and you were like, I'm not sure when it's going to go, but has it gone again even beyond your expectation?
I mean, it is just staggering. I've been promoting sports events for 53 years, so it's quite a long time. I've seen it. I bought the T-shirt. I've never seen anything like this. The sheer enthusiasm for the game, the number of youngsters coming. It ticks every box that you want to see in a professional sport. Have you got good grassroots? The amateur game's doing well. Junior Darts Corporation, things like that are giving kids an opportunity to play. Dartboard manufacturers are putting their hand in their pocket and doing things. All the things that perhaps didn't happen 10 or 15 years ago has changed the whole face of darts. And the perception of darts is changing. When we're talking to American broadcasters now, instead of it being, it's darts, you have a beer and you throw an arrow, they're suddenly realising, no, actually there's another world here. This is a top-line professional sport. And that makes it exciting. And that makes me think that we haven't got anywhere near that peak that I'm always worried about coming across when you say, well, that's it. Because then the game's over, isn't it? For me, it's like, I love the adventure of building things, but you have to see the figures, you have to see the numbers to know that it's continually growing, which at the moment it is. Last
time we spoke, Luke had just won his first world title and you were like, he's good, but let's see. Since then, back-to-back match plays, back-to-back world titles. He's joined a very exclusive club at the tender age of 19. You've seen a lot in sport. Forget darts for a minute. How big is Luke in terms of what he's done in sport?
You can get carried away with this, but whereas the first year was like, well done, that was impressive. What he's done now is establishing himself as an all-time great at 19, which is phenomenal. And the doubts that people may have had about him, including myself, about, he's making a huge amount of money, he's living the life. He has astonished me how mature he is and his approach to darts. And what really impressed me, I was talking to his manager, Gary Plummer, a little while ago, and Gary said, with his schedule, he won't be playing any Pro Tour events, and obviously he'll have to miss out on the Pro Tour Championships. But we're not reliant. The sport is not reliant on Luke Littler just for that. And I thought, well, okay, I can understand that. The boy's got a life. And then all of a sudden he wins the World Match Play and says, well, I've got to play some Pro Tour events because I want to qualify for the players. And then you realise how great this kid is. He wants to win everything. Yes, he knows he's making a lot of money, but actually, at this stage of his life, it's not really about the money. He wants to win everything. And that is a journey which adds more narrative to darts, more stories for people like you to take into the media. And he's a very, very impressive young man.
Come on to something you said there in a minute, but going on Luke, you've seen a lot of geniuses in sport, Ronnie for one of them.
Absolutely.
And how good could Luke be? Could he be arguably the best sportsman the UK's ever seen?
I have no idea. I have no idea because I've never seen, as I say, I've been around too many years, seen too many, thousands upon thousands of top sportsmen. I know this sounds a bit crazy, but I would put him in the Tiger Woods class in terms of a player with extraordinary ability that has come through the ranks, that has had a good grounding on amateur circuit, has got parents that are very supportive, he's got a good back group behind him. So I would put him right up there as a Tiger Woods figure of darts, not just for what he can personally achieve, but how he can benefit the game. Tiger Woods inspired a generation of golfers and changed golf. He changed the prize money, he changed the attitude by a lot of major companies to say, we want to get involved in this. And I think we're beginning to see that in darts.
What you said there about the change of angle of people that want to get involved, completely agree. And is that what darts needed to go to the next level? Because you can get to a level with certain companies and certain genres of companies getting involved, but is this the next step of what is needed to get darts to that level?
Without doubt. I mean, look, historically, darts has been big before. You know, I mean, it was big in the Eric Bristow, John Lowe days, BBC, Embassy, cigarette sponsorship, all that. It was big, and but it never actually got the perception of quality. Suddenly now, you know, people want to meet darts players. Major companies want to be involved in darts. Countries want to be involved in darts. You know, things like Bahrain, where they have darts on the school's curriculum, that's mind-blowing. I mean, and now we can work on that and expand that project. But the companies involved, you know, for years, no one from banks, insurance companies, you know, that sort of what you'd call your top echelon credit cards. Now they're phoning up and saying, tell me about darts. More importantly, countries are coming and saying, we want darts. So you've got the Middle East, which started with Bahrain, and Bahrain began Formula One, so it's in good company. Yeah. And then picked up by the Saudis, now about to be Dubai, potentially Oman, Abu Dhabi. You know, it's become acceptable sport to project the image of either a well-known company or a well-known country to expand the interest in them and what they've got, you know, in terms of tourism, in terms of investment, and in terms of where people want to be entertained. You know, when you look at the crowds that come in, and we're going to have a fascinating time at the World Championships this year in a few weeks' time, but it's not a restricted audience. It's not just, and look, I'm a working class promoter. I love blue collar sports, but I'm seeing lords and ladies want tickets. I'm seeing different type of landed gentry. I'm seeing people with huge wealth that want, you know, I need to have a ticket for the darts, and that's a change that brings with it a huge financial following as well, which makes you think, without getting carried away, this is the sport of the people, isn't it? It's inexpensive to play. There's no big clubs to join. It's all about dedication and practice and commitment, of which kids have got, because if they've got a hero like Luke Littler to look up to, then the Mitchell Lorries of this world say, I want to be next. I mean, I think Luke Littler's biggest challenge is going to be the people that he is introduced to the game in a way, you know, and why not?
A couple of bits off what you said there about obviously the Middle East, and mention a couple of countries there, all permitting everything's okay in the Middle East to travel.
Who knows?
Do we expect to see an expanded World Series in that region then?
I think we will. Possibly. I mean, again, the biggest issue we have at the PDC is dates. Because, you know, on the one hand, the players, and I'm not just talking about Luke, I'm talking about the players are earning good money. I mean, I think they're going to earn better and better money, which is good news for them. But even now, when they look at themselves now, the more mature players go, wow, this is not what it used to be like. Yeah. And they're out there buying houses, making investments and things like that. And beginning to say, I think I'll have a weekend off with a wife, which has never happened before. No, I'm not saying I'm in favour of that, but I can understand. I understand that these guys can afford to make a choice, which perhaps years ago they couldn't. I remember when Johnny Clayton stopped being a plasterer for Cardiff City Council. You know, he thinks it's like, that's a bit of a gamble. You know, my word, you know, it's paid off, hasn't it? 100%. So darts is changing people's lives as well as entertaining more and more people at the same time. And that's a mixture that rarely happens. It's ticking both boxes. Everyone's getting their value. The players are getting well paid, the sponsors are getting great numbers, the crowds are getting great entertainment. I mean, Luke Littler as a showman, it's quite amazing how he does things so naturally. That other people would have to learn. You know, I mean, and it probably, you and I are both big darts fans, but the man in the street suddenly knows what the big fish is.
Yeah, 100%.
And they know what to do.
Yeah, they reel it in. Yeah.
You know, everyone knows what a 9-darter is, but you see the anticipation of the crowd when you throw 6 treble 20s, you know. you can almost feel it growing.
Yeah.
So these are moments of entertainment that give you value for money when you buy a ticket. And it's not a Taylor Swift concert. It comes in at a reasonable price. The tickets are not cheap, I don't think, at all. But I think they're reasonable, and I think they're a price where you still get value. And the PDC job is to make sure that value is there. And the biggest value is the standard of entertainment, the technical brilliance that these players are showing. And at the moment, it's Luke Little's one-man show, isn't it? But you were there when it was the PDC stood for Phil's Dart.
Phil's Dart Club, yeah. It was.
Now, everyone said, oh, that's the end of darts. Phil's just going to win everything. The British public, they like winners and they hate winners, but they buy tickets either way. They want to be there when Littler wins, or they want to be there when someone beats Littler. So they're invested in the game itself, and that's given us better crowd atmospheres as well. There'll always be a few nutcases out there. We deal with them. But the vast majority of people have bought a ticket and they're there to enjoy the darts. It's the most unique sport in as far as it's not like Arsenal and Tottenham, where a fan of Arsenal wouldn't even sit next to someone from Tottenham. No one hates a dart player. They have their marginal favourites. And of course, and Luke's found this out and has adjusted to it, he's going to be a target because there's a big target on his back. I think Gary Plummer will enjoy the reference to Target, you know. But, you know, that's the sort of thing you realise. But that is the exact. I look back on Tiger Woods' early career. It's exactly what happened with Tiger Woods. You know, all of a sudden everyone was gunning for Tiger, but Tiger was good enough to win despite that, and Luke Littler is as well. But what it does produce is outstanding entertainment.
So we had, obviously, Saudi for the first time this year. I know we were close to having another one in the Middle East.
Yeah.
Have Saudi indicated that they still want the darts? They pulled out of a lot of other sports this year. They've reallocated money and so on. Are they still committed to darts?
I mean, they work on a yearly basis, so you never say, you know, Bahrain would probably do a 10-year deal because they're really invested in it. But Saudi are saying, no, we want this. They've got a contract. Other places are. I mean, we can't underestimate the problems of this Middle East conflict.
That's what I mean, yeah.
Which could affect anything. But all we can do is make sure that we're there, ready to play, ready to earn, and the players, you know, they love it as well. The World Series is a difficult one, you know. And it's a bit like the Premier League formats as well. You know, it's not broken so you don't fix it. It's too easy to say. We've always got to be one step ahead. And that's the sort of thing we're looking at the moment now, especially on Premier League. Does it need a little bit of freshening? World Series, I think we're probably looking at saying we have an opportunity now to perhaps take some lower ranked players to give them the experience of a World Series tour, because that's an investment in their future, knowing how to handle the media, the different crowds, learning how to entertain, which is all vitally important. At the same time, the big players are essential because they're the ones the crowd want to see because they've read about them or seen them on our TV syndication around the world.
A couple of bits on that, you kind of beat me to it. First of all, for the 2027, there's been reports in Hong Kong over the last couple of days that you guys at PDC have done a recce, you found an arena to go. Can we expect to see Hong Kong in 2027?
At the moment, with the conflict in the Middle East, until we actually close off dates, we have a very, very restrictive number of dates available. And that's because of the tournament structures, obviously. We have to give priority to those customers that have been with us and have got a contract for signing. But we also have to be aware that the price of a pint goes up, you know, and these people around the world need to be educated that it's going to cost them money. You know, if they go back to the golf comparison, you want Tiger in your event, you know, well, you've got to come to the table with something serious. You want just a darts event without mentioning the Littlers and the Van Gerwens and the Luke Humphreys. They're still top quality events. So it's an education process. This is not as it might have been 10 years ago. A little cheapy. Oh, we'll get some darts players, that'll be fun. No, this is a proper business, employed to employ proper sportsmen and women.
With the American investment into Matchroom, and we've obviously seen the ESPN deal in North America, would it be fair to assume that we're going to get more darts in North America?
I think when you look at the world, as I do, I'm asleep thinking of the world, and I look at the areas and say, are we doing enough? When I go around the world, most of the time I say we're doing a really good job, generally speaking. Tournaments in those countries, we have a broadcast deal that brings in a lot of money. But when you look at the potential of America, it's quite staggering. But there's also a lot of negatives. We don't have a lot of young people playing darts in America. We have a lot of people playing darts. Our 9-ball pool business, the World 9-ball Tour, is also one of those underutilised sports in America. And I think together with darts, that's the attack that we're doing. The involvement in ESPN, which is very much a trial involvement up until the World Championships, is fundamental. If we hit numbers, if we get, and the signs are good, but we mustn't get carried away, it has the potential to be our next big growth market. And I think China on the other side has also got a similar potential, and Southeast Asia. Hong Kong being part of Southeast Asia would be an ideal stopover, but do we have the dates? Do they have the money? We don't go anywhere anymore where we used to say, we'll go there for free because it will be good to spread the game. The game is spreading with or without us. It's going crazy all around the world. So we have to set the bar at a certain level. The players have to know they've got a certain income. And I think other players have got to know they have the ability to get into that bracket, because that's, a World Series player is a superstar. It's like a Premier League player. It affects your whole life.
Yeah.
One, it's a huge commitment of time and energy. But two is, it's an opportunity to change your financials forever and make yourself. The stage that we give the players is where they make their money. So Luke Littler is very important, obviously. But Luke Littler has got a huge contract with Target Darts, who it's in their best interest to see the game explode all around the world, in the same way as we have a contract at the PDC with Windmill. So there's other people benefiting, and those other people are obviously very sensible business people that say we need the game to grow to areas that we don't know. How many dartballs do we sell in America? Imagine how many we could sell in 5 years' time. And it's changing the dynamic of the industry of darts.
On the World Series, what you said there as well, I like the bit that you said other people are going to get an opportunity, because that's been one of the criticisms, I'd say, over the last couple of years, that
I think that's found as well.
The same 8 have done the Premier League, and the World Series has become an extension of the Premier League. Is that going to change?
Yes, I think there's a movement that we've got to look at, and we've got to be quite selfish about it. We've got to be business-like about it. We're not doing people favours because they've been around for a long time. Those days are gone. What you earned 10 years ago doesn't do you a favour now.
Yeah.
Now, there'll always be the exceptions of people that go down the rankings, but to any vibrant sport, we've got to show that they're being replaced by new superstars. And my concern is that they've got to grow into that as well as people and as well as entertainers. And you will see them. I think the rankings will be less important on World Series, especially, than they have been.
I like that.
Because it should be saying to a kid, now, and we're not talking about unknown players. Let's put a few names out there. I mean, Josh Rock has played a couple, I think. He's a youngster with a future. Vessel Nyman, looks a spectacular player. They need experience on that big stage to see if they're good enough to go to the next level. This is why a Premier League player, it's a real hard work. Premier League is good money, but it's hard work. But they should be looking on that as, I've got to compete with the best for the next 10 years. So I've got to put in enough work to make sure I can produce my best, which means that the customer that buys a ticket sees excellence, and people will always pay for excellence.
I like that potential theory. Like, say you've got the 8 Premier League players and you divvy the World Series up, right? You 4 are doing that one, you 4 are doing that one, and then like you've mentioned like names there, but like almost using I don't want to say dress rehearsal, but like you say, getting these next generation ready for that huge step.
And finding out whether they can be ready.
Yeah.
Because some will crack. We know with Premier League in the past, we've put players in the Premier League, which hasn't destroyed their careers, but it hasn't done them any good.
Knocked them back a couple of years.
Yeah, because it has, because it's competitive.
Yeah.
And you're playing the best in the world. So it's getting that balance right. You need quality players to sell tickets. You need to make sure that... and everything's governed by the level of prize money. I mean, we stuck the prize money up at £8 million a year last year. And I thought, that'll do us for a little while. And suddenly I'm thinking, we're going to have to go and have another look at prize money. And you think, well, crikey, that's amazing,
Yeah.
When we started, I mean, I know it's historic now, things have changed. But when we started, there was £500,000 of prize money for the entire season to spread over all the players. And I said, I want to get to 25 million. Automatically now I'm looking at 30 very quickly, And it can go on. The great thing about it is it's a justified increase. We're not giving people extra prize money just because they're nice people. We're doing it because the sport deserves it, because it makes money. We as operators must not be too greedy ourselves. We've done a great job. The PDC has been one of the best businesses I've ever seen. But it's also achieved the goal of changing people's lives through sport. And that can't stop. The only way it stops is if you look at numbers, and numbers are my best friend. Numbers don't tell lies. People tell lies. Numbers tell you, crikey, you're doing well. Okay, your first thought then should be, who gets it?
Yep.
And it's got to be spread in a proper way. We can look at the global market of sports stars and what they pay. So we know the figures and numbers never lie. So the UFC has been a massive success around the world, particularly in America. They pay about 13 or 14% of their turnover in prize funds. Snooker is about 30 odd percent. Darts is over 35%. Boxing in England, which is a disaster business, pays about 80%, because you've got a market that's challenging you all the time to pay. We're trying to get it perfect. We'll never get it absolutely perfect, but because we are not, again, it's very difficult people to understand. Of course we're money people. Of course we run businesses that make money, and Matchroom's been a hugely successful British company, but it's done so in parallel to making sure that the game is the real winner. One day one day I won't be here, one day who knows. I mean, Eddie loves darts, there's no question about that. But he doesn't particularly like snooker, But things will change. And businesses, we are very good at maximising our commercials. And the players have benefited from that in a way that I don't believe anyone else in the world could have done it. But now, from where we are now, we're still under the microscope to do the right thing. And the right thing is to continue to expand the horizons of existing players and inspire next generations to say, I want some of that cake. And we can just sit back and then watch the fun.
Yeah.
Because there is still nothing like a night at the dance.
Last one on America. How far away and do you see one of the PDC majors going across the pond?
The problem with this is dates. It's all about dates. And it's about doing what the players want, because the schedule is quite intense, I mean, I talk to players who I respect, Gerwin Price, Johnny Clayton, two names that come to mind. And I always say to both of them, look, put in your head, I've got 10 years. Please God, you've got longer. But put in your head, you've got 10 years. So, think poor. Put money aside. Buy assets that you can touch and feel and see, like houses and things that the price may go down, but they're never going to kill you, And that should, in its own way, inspire you to be the best you can be. All I ever want from any sportsman that comes under the Matchroom banner is to be able to think to myself, this guy is being the best version of himself he can be. I get very pissed off if I see people floating, you know, being casual, because it's like a fight. Once you do that, you get knocked out. The competition is too strong. So don't take anything for granted. Work hard, play hard. You know, by all means, take the odd day off, of course. I'm not being silly. But you have an opportunity that the man upstairs has given you. Don't bloody waste it.
You touched on the Premier League about potential tweaks. Obviously, players have been fairly outspoken this year in particular that they're not keen on this format. What tweaks are you potentially looking at?
I have no idea. I've got an empty sheet of paper. We discuss this probably once a month throughout the 12-month period. We're always on the agenda. And you look at ideas going, sometimes you go back to old ideas. You know? We have a situation where last year we sold 99.21% of every ticket on Premier League. Now that does encourage you to say, listen, players have got their opinions. Certain darts fans have got their opinions. When we talk about those opinions represent 5% of the sport, my market is the casual fan that buys 95% of the tickets. And what the evidence I'm seeing is people are happy with it. TV ratings are holding up. Ticket sales are astronomical. Prize money's going up. Every player in the world wants to be in the Premier League. So we have that supply issue resolved. So we've got to be careful. And whether we leave it untouched for one more season is probably where I think the PDC will go. Whether they feel there's a little tweak, we'll have to wait and see. Certainly we will have this internally resolved in September. Because the Premier League starts, you know, in January or February, as we know. So it's a difficult one. It's one where we're not in this business to take risks with other people's careers. We did something where everyone goes, oh, that's a bit boring and dull. The problem today is you've got sort of the UK audience saying it's the same players every week, and we've seen the same match 6 times so far this year. I understand that. But of course, if you're a fan from Manchester that only goes to see one darts event a year, and you're going to get a champion coming out of Manchester, that ticks their box, and that means that the ticket sales are so astronomically high. So there is a balance. We've got loads of overseas venues saying we want a Premier League game, but we've got a broadcaster like Sky says, hang on, we've already let you have 3 outside the UK, which have all done unbelievably well. And we're trying to keep everybody happy, and by doing that, we will fail, definitely, keeping everybody happy.
I get that.
And our shoulders have got to be broad to take on that criticism. But rest assured, it's not something that we're just saying, oh, don't even think about it. We're spending a lot of time thinking about it, running the numbers with our advisors, the repercussions of X, Y, and Z. It has to be authentic. It has to be a genuine challenge. It has to be serious. Although it has the look of an exhibition tour, it's not, because people want to win, whether it's the monthly prize or whether it's to get into the playoffs. The idea of bringing back relegation is another one which might be quite interesting.
Me personally, I think there should be some jeopardy. I don't think you should be guaranteed all 16 weeks. I like the jeopardy side of it, where you weren't guaranteed that run.
The danger being, because I agree with you, I think that makes it more exciting. And it may be that you say, for example, every 6 weeks, you know, quite small, the bottom guys are eliminated. But then you find one of the really top stars has a bad 2 or 3 weeks, and the next thing is he's out of the competition, and the people that have bought tickets go, oh, I want you to see. I don't go to any other, I only go to, you know, I live in Nottingham, I live in Aberdeen. So it's a complicated mix, and we'll all have our thoughts and theories, and we listen to everybody, and then we make our own mind up.
Do you think the top players do play each other too often now? Well, if we saw Anthony Joshua against Tyson Fury 6 times a year, would there be the clamour for it? And Are we seeing that?
They probably would, but not 60 times in their career. I mean, it's a balance. You know, you can go on different theories. I like to watch. My personal is I like to watch excellence. So therefore, obviously, I like to watch the best players. I don't want an exhibition feel to it, and which is if you get a player that plays a few games and he throws an 80 average and he still gets paid, that annoys me. I want excellence in everything we do. So it's a mixture of, but there's smart people out there looking at it. So
I like that.
But it's good that we're talking all the time because people have got opinions and some of them are shit opinions, to be honest with you. But that's okay because I only need one or two little stars to sprinkle on the horizon and we change again. We're not fixed on everything. We're not fixed on anything. I think what we are fixed on is things like the World Championships, the sets, you know, that's a format that works. We've expanded it. We've got so many international players. But on the back of those international players, each international player grows the market in his or her country, which increases the broadcast value in that country, which increases more players. So it's creating a monster. And the monster is got a lot of plants in the corner, if you remember that, saying, feed me, feed me.
I like that. You touched on players missing events and so on, and you don't particularly like it. Are the top players at the moment missing too many events? And I understand Pro Tours, but the argument is they're missing lots of European tours and stuff at the moment.
To be honest with you, I'm such a fan of the overall system, and I'm going to take all the credit for it. Of course, it wasn't just me. I like the idea, and people can criticise lots of things. They do in lots of our sports, but the idea of your ranking list is built on prize money, means that if you do miss too many events, your ranking is going to go down. And we've seen that that's accelerated with the amount of increased prize money. You'll get more volatility in the rankings. So people that you thought were going to be safe for 5 years, you don't know, we put names to it because it doesn't matter. They know, they see the evidence. Peter Wright, you know, Michael Smith, people that have had problems with injury or whatever, you know, you can dive down, which means you've got to make the most of every opportunity, which means you don't tend sensibly to miss too many events. We've had a few players that have missed a few events and suddenly realise, you know, Nathan Aspinall, you know, well, it's cracking, you know, is he going to qualify for this or that? And he's a top player. So I don't want to lose top players, but I think the system is so good that it actually encourages other people. So when I see a few big names not in a Pro Tour event, I'm genuinely quietly happy. You know, 1, we don't sell tickets. 2, it's a completely, which I love, meritocracy. It's about ability, not about talk. It's about what you do on the octave. And when I see those big names, I love, because as you know, I still alter my rankings by hand every tournament. And you see someone get 15 grand, which is not fortune in today's darts world, but it's enough to put you up a few more places. And what that does, it stimulates you to think, I'm back to the practice board. You know, I've got that hunger. And that's why darts is in such a good place, because we've got a lot of those people. And you look down at the Sebastian Bialeckis and people like that have come on in Poland, and suddenly they're winning tournaments or getting in finals. And automatically, it takes a bit of time, but all of a sudden they're qualifying for the World Grand Prix. They're qualifying for, you know, certain players qualifying for the World Match Play. Players that you didn't expect. And some of that is because they've been lucky. They've had a week where a few top players didn't play. They've had a draw where they think, I quite fancy this, I've got a chance, and they've delivered.
I get the Pro Tours, but the European Tour in particular, when tickets are being sold on the big names being there, and they pull out on a Thursday or early on a Friday, is that an issue that needs addressing?
That is an issue, and part of the addressing will be increasing prize money.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, that's the first thing they look at. You know, and if you're, I mean, I think we've got it just about right, that if you're an invited player, effectively,
one of the
top
seats,
16, if you don't win your first game, you get paid, but it don't count towards your rankings. That's good. That's really good, because it means you're under the scrutiny. When you see other players that are in that top 16 and pull out, that's not good, because they're not justifying the system that's given them the opportunity in the first place. And we've got to look at that. But there could be some penalties built around days before and things. We understand people get sickness.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
But you've got to make your mind up. If you're a top pro, part of being a top professional is organising your diary yourself. And by all means, it can be to suit you, because no one forces you to play. What we do want is the credibility of the event not being affected. If a player feels it's not worth his while, but I don't want to see someone pulling out and then appearing in an exhibition on the same night because he got more money than the first round losers.
Yeah.
You know, those sort of things have got to be factored in, and it's a question of educating the players a bit more to saying, don't take liberties. We're all on the same team. We've got to produce a great programme, because the European Tour, when we started the European Tour, it was costing us millions a year of losses. Millions a year. The Pro Tour, for example, is a humongous, I don't know what it costs us, 5 million a year? £5 million, which we don't have to do. No. But we do have to do if we want a sport that's going to grow. Yeah. If we want to encourage youngsters. Look at Bo Greaves on the Pro Tour. She nearly knocked my teeth out the other day. She won on the Pro Tour. I'm like, now, what did that mean to me? It justifies the Pro Tour. It justifies the system. And hopefully, with Bo Greaves, who I think is an exceptional talent, I think she thinks, blimey, I don't believe I could ever, in my dreams, win the Pro Tour. And then she'll go and have a run. And she's qualified for the next couple of European tours as well. And suddenly you're looking at the ranking list. She's getting up there. You know, this is a woman that could be top 32, could be top 64. And with it comes life-changing opportunities. Now, people have either got to have the ability to take that or ignore it. But only an idiot would ignore changing your life and the type of money we're talking about. So we're not far away from having it dead right. I think the players have got, and I think most of the players do, they continually buy into it. Yeah. You know, you'll always have a player that says, I don't fancy it, or the wife wants to go out this weekend. All right, we'll make sure that we've got plenty of notice. Someone else is going to get their chance. We have a system there in place which works. But overall, the European Tour, the Pro Tour Europe, makes money now instead of losing millions. So something's going right. Yeah. And it makes money, and we understand it's not just the players' fault. We've got to look at, are we motivating those players enough to play? And the way you motivate them is you pay them more money. And if they want to miss out, they run the risk of slipping down those rankings, and before you know, you won't be qualifying for the World Match Play, the Grand Prix, the Grand Slam. And maybe, because the competition is so intense, you'll be struggling in a couple of years for a tour card. Is that the end of your journey? Well, the answer to that question lies in your own hands.
With the Players' Championship finals, you touched on it where you said we're not relying on Litter to be there, which I understand. Like the sport is the sport is huge. Yeah. If we get to the point where, let's say, 9 or 10 of the top players go, I'm not doing Pro Tours anymore because I want to. That's the time with the family, and
they won't be top players anymore.
But does that cause an issue, like for commercial agreements, if they miss?
No, our contracts are done. We're done. But our job is, irrespective of commercial agreements, to deliver the best product, and the best product involves the best players. But if someone starts pulling out of events, don't hold your breath to get invited to the World Series.
Yeah, fast.
You know, if you're a top player, behave like a top player. You've got to give back as well as take, and that's the way it'll be. So I think it's fabulous, because I didn't expect Luke Littler to say after the World Match Play, I'm going to have to, have his words, play in some Pro Tours. Now, all of a sudden, we've got another narrative. Pro Tour, top 64, which I think should be extended myself. But anyway, another year. About 30 grand now to be in top 64. Luke Littler stands on nothing. Those 4 events, do you know how tough that's going to be? Oh. He's got to really win 2 out of 4 Pro Tour. And listen, the kid's a great player.
He's only won 4 in his career.
And they're tough to win.
100%.
They're tough to win those early games when someone gets off to a flyer and he goes 4-0 up because with 2 breaks to throw.
100%.
Because you've been a bit slow. I said to him, I was fishing with Luke for the ITV fishing thing. I said to him, you've made, not because you're in the Players' Championship, people understand. People understand you've made a lot of money. If you want a holiday, take a bit, recharge the batteries, that makes a lot of sense. He wants to win everything.
Everyone in the year.
That's a bad sign for the other players. He's not going to give you an easy week. So, but now, those folk, I mean, Leicester, no crowds. There are 4 days there where I cannot wait to get my little sheet of paper out and say, how much is he up to now?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
I think it's a whole different challenge. And whether he does it or not, the fact is he's trying to do it, which shows what a great star he is. It shows you that he's got more about him than just
picking this one back up. New major coming in 2027 as well that has been announced. What can you tell us?
Well, it was we've reviewed our contract with DAZN, and there was always a clause in there that there was going to be another event, and it's all very well having that, but you've got to find times, and you've got to find interesting formats and the venue that's going to be right, and that's done. So it's another major to play in, which is great. I mean, you asked earlier about America. Now, we have a great relationship with the CDC in America. They do, and we support them financially, and we're going to extend that support so they can do more events, because we need, any player of any sport, if they haven't got opportunity, the sport's got no future. So we will be doing more events with them, but we're also going to bring in other events ourselves. We're going to partner with other people in America and do more darts events. We need to grow a structure the same way as we grew the PDC, and frankly, we're going in at the bottom level. I don't think we've got many players under 40 in America, which is not good. So I need kids to come, so we're talking to the universities and things like that. We're going into the grassroots, JDC, what ideas you've got in America. So we're starting to spread ourselves. Of course, we would love to do more than one big event. The New York event for the World Series is fine. That's a showpiece event that introduces people. But realistically, I can't suddenly have 4 or 5 majors in America.
No, I get that.
Because we don't get the dates. Maybe we could do 1 or 2 more, but we need to look on America in the same way as we're partially looking at Australia at the moment with the Australian Premier League and things like that, saying, go out and produce your own players. Don't rely on us bringing the big stars, because the day after the event, they leave.
Yeah.
So you need, and the Premier League in Australia has been a big success, not financially, but big success in as far as 2,000 to 3,000 people are buying tickets now to watch an all-Australian event. And the winner goes to this and qualify. So it makes sense. Now you have to push the money up to make sure that those people in Australia can say, I'm a darts player. At the moment, everyone needs a job, don't they? You go into America and say, you're a professional darts player in America, there's only 6 tournaments for you to play in. There's got to be 30, at least, because you've got to be a real player, and you've got to practice and you've got to build your life around it to get... Because I want to see an American in the top 16. At the moment, I haven't got one in the top 64. So it's a big push, but we'll find out. And I think with the example of Australia, people will turn out to watch their own. And we'll find out that over the next, we'll be starting next year. So we're not messing about, we're going for it. And as I say, when Matchroom sold 15% of itself to Brewing Capital, which is a major investment company in America, who have fantastic contacts. And the first thing that happened was, hello ESPN. Eddie turns up at a brewing conference, and surprise, surprise, sitting next to him is the president of ESPN. The poor bugger never had a chance. He's got Eddie in his face saying, what about darts? And now it's up to us. The guy was terrific and said, you know what? I read all about it, I've heard all about it, we'll give it a chance. And they're doing, that the 9 darts of the World Match Play was splashed across ESPN News, which is the biggest sports news channel 100%. In America. And they're screaming at it. And they're getting involved and they're shouting 180 and all that. That's the enthusiasm. If we get that, and if it triggers, because it's all about numbers, it's all about business, if it does numbers, it gets people talking, we could have a major customer hands there. And bear in mind, and don't get too excited, UFC started on Spike TV, a little tiny cable station in America. Today, it's a £30 billion company. Why not? Why not darts?
Love that. The new major, is it going to be a replica of the UK Open, but in Germany? That's that reading. Google, I'm not sure if Google translated it properly, but that's what the German article was saying.
I think there'll be a few twists on it, but yes, basically that. I mean, I think we look at our responsibility to players. Whilst we want the PDC to be very competitive, we also don't want to close any doors to those looking for an opportunity. So if you're a tour card holder, you expect certain things. And look, I've won my golden ticket, what do I get now? Well, you've still got to win. You don't get nothing if you lose your first round. These are all good things to make sure that the quality level goes to a certain size. But when it comes down to opportunity, I think things like we saw it with the UK Open, the Players' Championships is the next one to look at and say, if you're good enough to be a professional darts player, we've got to make sure you've got lots of opportunities to change your life. You know, we have a ranking list that is still biased towards the top players. You know, the top 16 get in, the others have got to earn their way. And that's a difficulty for me to take on. You know, I like to think everyone's got a chance. The way around that is to expand the event so more players are included from day one.
You touched on the pool and the quality.
Yeah.
I'm going to drop down to the next level, the Challenge Tour, and I say amateur game in brackets, but there's kind of no such thing anymore. No. That level is now unbelievable. We're seeing players come up from the Challenge Tour and win events, and they're in qualifying spots for Minehead in the World Championships on their own merit.
Yeah.
Now, perhaps does that need looking after and nurturing a little bit better and more opportunities even at that level?
I think we're not far away because you're never going to get the whole world agreeing to anything. But I think we're getting a good way towards giving people enough opportunity without spoiling them. We don't want to lower the standard. We want it to be very much built on a meritocracy. So Challenge Tour, yes. Interestingly, the developmental tour is the one that's got my eyesight more. Bear in mind, the developmental tour are made up of people that went to Q school, and let's be brutal, and weren't good enough. They weren't good enough to go to the main tour. To get in the main tour has to be something which is like a wow moment.
Yeah.
Q school is like that, isn't it? You see people throwing up, crying, having breakdowns because of the pressure they're under, and I love it. Because if they can't cope with that pressure, they're not going to be any good to me on the main tour. It's brutal, but then top sport is brutal. And if you can't cope with that, so you have to be very careful. You're not lowering, you're not dumbing down.
Yeah.
You know, there's almost political arguments for looking at comparisons here. We're not going to dumb down everyone to the same level. We're going to let ability determine where they go. So I think we're subject to financial changes potentially. We're doing a good job with the developmental tour. We're doing a great job and giving people an opportunity. And bear in mind, it's based on successful formula. So developmental tour is based on Challenge Tour or whatever in golf. You know, you've gone to Q school, you haven't got your tour card. Sorry, mate. You're not good enough to be in the top X number. But we're not just saying see you next year. We're saying here's something to, if you're real, if you're going to pay a price, we'll give you the chance. You
touched on like the UFC and whatever. We've seen Zuffa Boxing come in and try and upset the status quo. We've seen people try and do it to you in snooker. Are you ever worried that someone will try it in darts?
Of course. I mean, if they're better than me, good luck. And they're going to have to be very good. And they're going to have very deep pockets. And they're going to have to put in some of the tens of millions that I've put into darts. And if they do that, they deserve their seat at the table. I look forward to seeing them. I'm hoping that they'll be serving the food rather than eating it.
No, I really love that, and that passion that you still have for the sport all these years on.
Well, I'm a competitor myself.
Yeah.
You know, and I may not be able to throw a dart. I definitely can't throw a dart. But in my life, I play a game, and my game has always been to be the best I can be and to be the best there is out there. I've had a few good ticks, you know.
Yeah.
But I think what you did yesterday never counts for what you're going to do tomorrow. So I don't get complacent, you know. I said to my son the other day, if I ever see you walk past a £10 note on the floor without picking it up, I will cut you out of my will. And it's true.
Yeah, I love
because
that.
I don't like complacency.
No.
I've had a very blessed life, and I've been very, very fortunate. But I've also paid the type of price that I'm asking darts players and snooker players to play. Dedicate your life, which I have dedicated my life, 53 years of doing what I do. So if someone thinks they can do it better, I think they should have the opportunity to try. I don't think they've got a dog in hell's chance, but you know, who am I to say? But the challenge still excites me, because I don't want to just be there because of what I've done in the past. I want to be there because I have a better plan than most for going forward.
Now, you had a meeting with the PDPA in Blackpool.
Yeah.
Do you think, and do you want them to be doing more than what they're currently doing? Was that part of that meeting?
Yes. I mean, the PDPA have done a good job in as far as they are available. I don't think they've been utilised enough by the players. You know, they've done things where it's a good idea, whether it's mental health, whether it's tax advice, and you know, just a handful of players have turned up. I know they've got to make an effort, but it's in their best interest to make that effort. I think the PDPA can look at slightly things in a different way. They are a fairly wealthy Players Association, so they have money to do things. And we had a good chat about what they take from players and whether there should be some changes in that, which they will go away and think about. And I think where they've got to look at a little bit more attention to making sure the players themselves know more about the PDPA.
Yeah.
You know, that there is a PDPA representative for every tournament. You've got a problem, there's your man.
Yep.
Don't go and bother Barry Hearn with it. He's not going to give a monkey. They're players' union, and they're there. Because we've got things pretty well straight in most departments, there isn't an awful lot for them. You know, there's not someone, no one's being ripped off or underpaid or anything like that, which are the things in the past that unions have been useful for. Doesn't apply to the glorious world of darts. But I think they should be looking more at the benevolent side of what they're set up for. I think players, as we go on, will have more problems, mental health-wise, financial, not understanding, education on drugs. Things like that are fundamental. But to have a much better benevolent fund, monetary position where they can actually look after people. I see it in boxing where fighters get injured late in life. And it's sad they don't have enough opportunity, you know. And I think the PDPA will warm to that task, but I think they've got to do this a little bit more of a job themselves, to be perhaps more professional, to have perhaps more people there that can show the membership, we are here and this is what we can do for you. So it's a communication issue more than anything else.
Last for two before I let you go. You touched on obviously like the drug side of it there. We've had a couple of high profile failed tests. The first, like one at the World Championships is obviously not a great look. Do players need to realise that this sport isn't what it used to be, and they need to be professional themselves as well? And if some of them perhaps let themselves down over the last year or so?
I just think drugs is a problem for society, not for darts. You know, and we're part of society, so part of that problem will come to us, and people will be tempted, perhaps they will do silly things or they will use an excuse for it. But it's the rules are the rules. And we have a very good darts regulation authority that follows up on everything, including looking at potentially fixed matches, all the things that could affect the credibility of darts. You know, match fixing, for example, would be the death knell, because we have so much bookmaker support. They're relying on us. And we have one of the best regulation authorities in the world. So we're on all of that. We've done it with snooker and we've done it with darts, we've done it with pool. So we're used to that. Drugs is a problem for society, and unfortunately, or fortunately for the sport, we will find you and we will take action against you. Common sense says it's not a good idea, and those that don't have common sense can look forward to a short career within the world of professional darts.
Last one before I let you go. World Championships on the horizon now. We're moving to the Great Hall. An extra 2,000 tickets per session. How excited are you for this move?
Oh, I can't wait. I can't wait. I love the event. I love the fact that illustrations of where the game is, the perceptual changes when people say there's nearly an extra 100,000 tickets. What I say is, I can't afford a business where I'm not satisfying demand. And if someone hasn't been able to get a ticket for the last 2, 3, 4 years, sooner or later they look elsewhere. So this will take away some, not all of the problem, because we're going to be swamped. But we're ready. We've got a ballot system in. We're going to do it very professionally. We hope that more and more people, the sale of secondary tickets, we're ramping up action against that. We don't want people to be mugged off, ripped off. We want cancelled tickets, get them back at face value, you know, all those sort of things which show that we care about punters. But the fact that we've got extra capacity, the fact that we are going to have a huge amount. Listen, I've got bills to pay. And I don't expect your sympathy, but we put the prize money up to £5 million. We've got £1 million for the winner, and all I'm saying is that's not the end of it. So we're growing all the time. We don't have a day off. I don't have an hour off where I don't think about something related to improving darts as a sport for the players and the general public. And so far, it's been a big success.
On your line there, I asked Matt this question, and his answer was, I hope I'm not the person that ever has to make that decision. Just off the back of the Winter Gardens. Yeah. Now, we know it's tiny and you could sell those tickets 6, 7 times over. Is there a line in your head, commercially, that someone gets to you and says, I want the World Match Play, that you'd move it from the Winter Gardens because of the history there? You
can't say for never, ever. But what we all say is, we're also darts fans.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, I go up once a year. I look forward to it. I have a nice Indian afterwards and a few pints and I watch some great darts. The Winter Gardens, and bear in mind also that when we talk about increased commercial income, the vast majority of our income is already secure. We have our broadcast deals, we have our sponsorship deals, we have our digital deals. So, and I don't want to be complacent with money, but an extra few quid on the gate is not necessarily the criteria. When you get to something like the World Championships, it's a massive amount of money, which justifies the prize money increases. The match play is a very special event for the people that have followed darts for years. It would have to take an enormous offer from someone, but I'm not saying that one day that won't happen. Maybe it does. It's not a problem for me to think about at the moment.
Barry, thank you so much for your time here at Mascot as always. Thank you very, very much.
Good luck, son.
To change your